You're standing in the bathroom, home blood pressure cuff wrapped around your arm, waiting for that little number to appear. You've done this 1,000 times by now. And some mornings, for no reason you can point to, it's just a little higher than you expected. You didn't eat differently, you didn't skip your walk. I think about a patient I'll call Carol, 64, from Denver. She came to me frustrated because her doctor kept telling her, "It's a little high, keep an eye on it." But nobody ever explained why it had crept up in the first place. She ate reasonably well, she walked most days. She wasn't looking for a miracle, she just wanted the actual explanation nobody had bothered to give her. Carol, if you're watching, this video is for you. And if you've ever felt exactly what she described, doing the things you've been told to do and still watching a number drift the wrong direction, stay with me to the end. Here's what I need you to hear. Your body already has a natural system for keeping your blood vessels relaxed and open. It's been running quietly in the background your whole life. And there's a very good chance something in your daily routine, something most people do twice a day without a second thought, is shutting part of that system down. Not your water, not your diet, at least not primarily, something else entirely. And once you know what it is, the fix takes about 30 seconds a day. I'm Dr. Clark. I spend my time looking at the gap between what your doctor can cover in a 15-minute appointment and what's actually happening in your body every day in between. Tonight's topic sits squarely in that gap, and once you understand it, you'll probably never think about your morning routine the same way again. Here's the one fact I want you to hold on to for the rest of this video. Your blood vessels relax and widen because of a molecule called nitric oxide. Think of it as WD-40 for your arteries. It doesn't build anything, it signals the smooth muscle inside your vessel walls. Right now, relax, widen, let more blood through. When that signal is strong, blood flows easily, your heart doesn't work as hard, and your pressure stays where it should. When it weakens, vessels stay a little tighter than they should, and over time, that shows up as the numbers creeping upward on your home cuff. Here's the part that matters specifically for you tonight. Your body actually has two separate systems for producing this signal, and one of them declines significantly with age. The first runs through an enzyme called nitric oxide synthase, or NOS, inside the lining of your blood vessels, the system you relied on most when you were younger. Research has shown this pathway becomes measurably less efficient as you age, partly because the enzyme itself slows, and partly because oxidative stress in aging vessels interferes with the process. By the time you're in your 60s and 70s, this primary factory simply isn't producing what it used to. But here's what almost nobody explains, and it's the whole reason for tonight's video. You have a second backup system. It runs through nitrate, a compound found abundantly in certain vegetables, which your body converts first into nitrite, and then into that same nitric oxide your vessels are asking for. And the step that makes this backup system work doesn't happen in your blood vessels, and it doesn't happen in your stomach. It happens on your tongue, carried out by specific bacteria living in the biofilm on the back of your tongue. Let that sit for a second. The bacteria on your tongue are a working part of your blood pressure control system. This is why tonight matters so much for anyone over 60. Your primary system is winding down with age at exactly the point in life when you need this backup system the most. And that backup system depends entirely on bacteria that most people are unknowingly wiping out twice a day. Now here's where I need to correct something, because if I don't, everything else tonight will feel incomplete. A lot of health content circling this topic lately implies the problem is something about your water itself. That plain water alone is somehow insufficient, and you need to add something exotic to fix your blood flow. That's not quite right, and it skips the actual mechanism entirely. The real issue almost never involves your water, it involves what's in your mouth. Specifically, antiseptic mouthwash, the chlorhexidine-based kind, marketed for killing germs and freshening breath, kills the exact bacteria on your tongue that convert nitrate into nitrite. Not some of them, nearly all of them. Here's the actual research, and the specifics are genuinely striking. In a controlled human study, healthy volunteers used an antiseptic mouthwash twice a day for 1 week. The mouthwash reduced oral nitrite production by 90%, and plasma nitrite levels in the blood dropped by 25%. Their blood pressure, both numbers, rose measurably, an effect that appeared within a single day and held steady for the entire week, including overnight readings while they slept. Use the mouthwash, Kill the bacteria, nitrite drops, pressure rises. Stop, and the pattern reverses. Scientists at the University of Gothenburg are actively running a clinical trial right now called Nitratone, testing the opposite approach, a nitrate-rich mouthwash designed to support this pathway instead of destroying it. This is current active science, not something settled decades ago. I want to be fair to the mouthwash industry for a moment, because killing bacteria in your mouth genuinely does help prevent cavities and gum disease. That's exactly why this trade-off exists in the first place. It's not that the mouthwash doesn't work as advertised, it's that the advertising never mentioned this particular side effect. And I want to be clear about something else. This isn't about your tap water, and it isn't about your drinking water being deficient. Check your own bottle if you have one nearby. Look for chlorhexidine on the label, or kills 99.9% of germs as the primary claim. That's the category we're discussing. A basic fluoride rinse without that antibacterial claim is a different product and isn't what this research describes. I think about a viewer I'll call Frank, 68, from Sacramento. Frank tracked his home blood pressure religiously every morning, a spreadsheet, dates, times, more disciplined about it than most of my patients. He'd started using an antiseptic mouthwash after every meal on his dentist's general advice, sometimes 3 times a day. He mentioned it almost as an aside, the way you'd mention flossing, not something he thought was relevant to blood pressure at all. When we looked at his numbers alongside his routine, there was a subtle but consistent pattern. His readings ran a few points higher on the days he'd used the mouthwash most, and lower on the handful of days he'd traveled without it and forgotten to pack it. We didn't tell him to stop using mouthwash altogether. We talked about switching to a non-antiseptic alternative and being mindful of timing around meals. 3 weeks later, his average morning reading had dropped by several points. Nothing dramatic, but real and sustained, sitting right there in the same log he'd kept for years without ever connecting it to this. Drop an A or a B in the comments. A if you use an antiseptic mouthwash daily. B if you don't, or you're not sure. I have a feeling this answer surprises a lot of us. Now let's put this to work. 5 things that support this exact system, counting down to the one I consider the most important of all. Number 5, pomegranate. This one works differently from the others. It doesn't add nitrate, it protects the nitric oxide your body has already made. Nitric oxide is fragile, it breaks down quickly once produced. Pomegranate's polyphenol compounds appear to shield it from oxidative breakdown, meaning the vessel relaxing effect from tonight's other foods sticks around longer than it otherwise would. Think of it less as its own ingredient and more as something protecting the work the rest of this list is already doing. Here's the honest caveat. Pomegranate juice, like grapefruit, can interact with how your liver processes certain statins and blood pressure medications. Mention it specifically at your next appointment before making it a daily habit. A small glass of pure pomegranate juice or a handful of seeds a few times a week. Number 4. Watermelon. This one takes a completely different route in, through a compound called citrulline rather than nitrate. Citrulline converts in your body into arginine, and arginine is the direct raw material your primary NOS pathway uses to build nitric oxide, the very system we said slows with age. So watermelon resupplies that system with what it needs, working alongside the nitrate pathway rather than competing with it. You're supporting both systems at once through 2 different foods and 2 different mechanisms. Here's the preparation insight almost nobody knows. The white rind, the part everyone throws away, actually contains a higher concentration of citrulline than the red flesh. Blend a chunk of rind into a smoothie along with the flesh. It has almost no flavor of its own and disappears completely. A cup or 2, rind included if you're willing to try it, several times a week. Number 3, arugula, spinach, or kale. These are rich in dietary nitrate. Arugula in particular is one of the highest natural sources there is. Same mechanism as everything building toward the top of this list. Nitrate to nitrite via your tongue's bacteria, then nitrite to nitric oxide in your bloodstream. Here's the preparation insight most people get wrong. Boiling greens in a large volume of water and discarding that water leaches out a meaningful share of their nitrate. Eat these raw in a salad or lightly steam or saute in a small amount of liquid you keep and eat rather than drain away. This is a water-soluble compound, not a fat-soluble one. So the the rule here is about water, not oil. And here's a synergy tip. A squeeze of fresh lemon on your greens brings vitamin C along for the ride, which helps stabilize the nitric oxide your body makes from them. A cup or two, raw or lightly cooked, most days. Number 2, beetroot. The richest dietary source of nitrate in any common food and the most direct raw material for everything we've discussed tonight. Here's the preparation insight. Chew or drink beets slowly and let the juice or pulp actually sit in your mouth for a moment rather than swallowing quickly. That contact time with your tongue's bacteria is part of what makes the conversion happen. And obviously, given everything we've covered, don't rinse with an antiseptic mouthwash right after. One harmless note: beets can turn your urine or stool a reddish color. That's just natural pigment passing through, not a medical concern. I'm telling you now so you don't panic later. Here's the synergy tip. Pair your beets with a source of vitamin C. Lemon, orange, a few slices of bell pepper, which measurably enhances how long the resulting nitric oxide stays active in your bloodstream. Half a cup of roasted or juiced beets or a spoonful of beetroot powder in water most days of the week. Who here already eats beets somewhat regularly? Drop a comment. I'm curious how many of you are closer to this than you think. Number 1, and I mean this, it may matter more than every food on this list combined. It isn't a food at all, it's a habit. You could eat beets, greens, pomegranate, and watermelon every single day and still blunt most of the benefit if this last piece isn't in place. The bacteria responsible for the nitrate to nitrite conversion live in a biofilm on the back third of your tongue, that slightly rougher area many people scrape or brush the hardest precisely because it looks like it needs the most cleaning. Harsh, aggressive tongue scraping can disrupt that biofilm. So can antiseptic tongue sprays, which work through the same bacteria-killing mechanism as mouthwash, just applied directly. If you use a tongue scraper, use one gentle pass, not repeated scrubbing, and build a simple timing rule. Avoid antiseptic mouthwash or tongue spray within about an hour of eating your nitrate-rich foods, so the bacteria have a real window to do their work first. This single timing adjustment is probably the highest leverage change on tonight's entire list, because it protects everything else you're doing at the same time. Before I tell you about Susan, let me answer a few things I know are on some of your minds. What if I use mouthwash because my dentist recommended it for gum disease? That's a conversation for your dentist directly. There are legitimate reasons for antiseptic mouthwash, and the goal isn't to stop, it's to make sure your dentist and your physician both know the full picture. What if my blood pressure is already normal? Does this still matter? It does, maybe even more so, as prevention. Your primary system will keep declining regardless of today's numbers. Do I need to give up mouthwash completely? No. This is about timing and type, not elimination. Plenty of people keep using an antiseptic mouthwash for genuine oral health reasons and still protect this pathway, simply by shifting when they use it relative to meals. I want to tell you about Susan, 66, from Columbus, Ohio. She'd been on a low dose of blood pressure medication for about 3 years, and her numbers had been slowly drifting upward despite that, enough that her doctor had mentioned possibly increasing her dosage. She felt like she was already doing everything right. She walked most mornings, watched her sodium, took her medication exactly as prescribed. When we went through her routine together, one detail stood out. She used an antiseptic mouthwash religiously, morning and night, for over a decade, because she associated it with taking her oral health seriously. We didn't change her medication. We didn't ask her to stop caring about her hygiene. We switched her to a non-antiseptic alternative, added beets and arugula a few times a week, and set the same timing rule I just gave you. Over the following 2 months, her average systolic number trended down by several points. Her doctor actually held off on increasing her dosage at her next visit. Susan told me, "I spent years thinking I was being responsible about my mouth and my blood pressure separately. I never once imagined they were connected." Now, I want to protect everything we've covered because I see 3 specific mistakes undo this constantly. Mistake 1. Using antiseptic mouthwash right after eating your nitrate-rich foods. You'll have eaten the right thing and gotten almost none of the benefit simply because of what happened 30 seconds later. Mistake 2. Aggressive tongue scraping or antiseptic tongue sprays, which work through the exact same mechanism, just applied directly and often more frequently throughout the day. Mistake 3. treating any of this as a substitute for your blood pressure medication or your monitoring routine. This system supports your blood pressure. It doesn't replace medical management of a diagnosed condition, and any changes in your numbers belong in a conversation with your doctor, not a decision to adjust your own dose. Here's how I'd bring this together. Pick a consistent time, ideally earlier in the day, and have one serving of a nitrate-rich food, beets, arugula, or spinach, on its own or with a meal. Give it a real window afterward, roughly an hour, before any antiseptic mouthwash or tongue spray. A few times a week, work in pomegranate or watermelon alongside it. If you want the simplest version of all of this, eat something from tonight's list at lunch or dinner, and save your mouthwash for right before bed instead of right after that meal. No new products, no complicated schedule, just a different order to habits you likely already have. Here's exactly what to do starting today. 1. Go check your mouthwash label right now. Look for chlorhexidine, or kills 99.9% of germs, as the primary claim. 2. Add one of tonight's foods to your day, whichever is easiest to get into your kitchen this week. 3. If you're not ready to switch mouthwash entirely, at minimum, move it away from your nitrate-rich meal. 4. Note your next home blood pressure reading, and if you keep a log, look back for any pattern tied to your oral hygiene routine, the way Frank found in his. 5. If you're on blood pressure medication, bring this up at your next appointment specifically. Try this for the next 7 days. Track how you feel, and if you monitor your blood pressure at home, keep an eye on whether anything shifts. Come back and tell me what you noticed in the comments. I read every single one. This is educational content, and it's not a substitute for care from your own physician. Please talk to your doctor before making any changes to your blood pressure medication, and mention your oral hygiene routine at your next visit, especially if your numbers have been drifting for reasons nobody's fully explained. If you have gum disease or a periodontal condition your dentist is actively treating, that conversation belongs with them first. I'm Dr. Clark. Here's to steady your numbers, easier walks, and a body that's been quietly working for you this whole time. I'll see you in the next one.